The high seat of Velthurion gleamed under the artificial suns, constructed to mimic the radiance of 12 star systems. Beneath it, the 1,000 races of the Galactic Council spoke over one another like gods who'd forgotten they were once. Afraid of silence. Motion to dissolve Sector 9 mining rights, croaked a scaled ambassador, flicking its tongue with bureaucratic venom. Seconded by the Valaxi Union, came the response, mechanical and bored. None of them noticed the black cube descending silently above the Council's heart chamber. Not yet. At the center dais, Councillor Kareth of the Zurvani adjusted his robes, woven from the gold wool of an extinct solar beast. Now onto the primitive application from, he glanced at the pulsing glyph, Earth? There was laughter. Of course there was. A race that had only just pierced interstellar travel within. A single sun cycle? And they dared request an audience? They sent one? Councillor Isrix hissed with amusement, translucent fins shivering with delight. A planet of billions and they send one? A bold tactic, Kareth smirked, or just desperate. Then came the sound, not footsteps, not engines, a tone. Low, deep, like something ancient waking inside the bones of the station. Every ambassador froze, instinct older than memory kicking in. The central doors did not open. They parted, and the human walked in. He wore no armor, no ceremonial drapes, just a matte black suit with an insignia that none of them could decipher, yet all of them instantly respected, or feared, or both. He carried a metal case in one hand. It hummed with no visible source. Councillor Kareth stood. You are Earth's representative. The human looked up, slowly. I am. Not yes. Not correct. Just I am. As if the fact of his presence was enough. A ripple moved through the chamber. The Drenari ambassador, a race of thought parasites that consumed weaker minds, shuddered, visibly nauseous. He's shielded, it rasped. I can't read him. He has no guards, Isrix whispered. Where is his security? The human set the case down. The hum grew louder. It wasn't a weapon. Not in the traditional sense, it was worse. A single holographic projection ignited above it. A star map. And then dots. Red ones. Spreading from Sol like a plague. Hundreds. No, thousands. Each marked with unfamiliar Terran designations. Titan class. Ouroboros Black Star Initiative. Kareth stumbled. What are these? The human didn't smile, didn't blink. Reinforcements. There was no boasting in his tone, just a calm, tactical certainty, like someone had already flipped the final page in a story only the galaxy thought it was writing. I thought you came to negotiate, Isrix spat, now pale. The human looked at him, eyes devoid of threat, but not mercy either. I came to observe. How many of you are still worth talking to? Silence. Real silence. The kind that doesn't ask for permission. In that stillness, even the war-loving Zorak delegation backed away from the map. One of them whispered, "Those dots are all real?" No answer. Just the low hum of the black case, still pulsing like a heartbeat. And that was before Earth even responded. Shut it down, Kareth barked, pointing at the floating red constellation still hovering over the council chamber. But the case didn't respond to Zurvani commands. The hologram remained rotating slowly, each red dot pulsing like a heartbeat against the artificial starlight. It's locked to him, someone whispered. The human hadn't moved since placing the case. He watched the room, not with curiosity, but with calculation. Like a tactician reviewing the integrity of an old battlefield, Councillor Isrix flicked its gills in frustration. This violates 17 council codes, unauthorized tech in sovereign airspace, unverified fleet data, and you— It pointed a claw, have no diplomatic clearance. Finally, the human moved. Just one hand slipping into his inner pocket. The security field shifted. Half the room flinched. He pulled out a piece of paper. Paper. Folded once. Edges worn. He set it on the council's command pedestal. Kareth stepped. forward and activated the scan protocol. The glyphs of the Council's legal language flickered as the system tried to interpret the page. Then they froze. Council Seal 1001, Initiator Protocol. Origin, Founding Council Language, Status, Immutable, Supreme Override, Access Human Classification. Observer Kareth blinked. This isn't possible. It's forged, Isrix growled. It has to be. Cross-reference it, the human said flatly. I'll wait. The air shifted again, tighter, now like the station itself was listening. After 10 seconds, the central node glowed crimson, then gold, authentic. The chamber erupted. Dozens of species began shouting in their native dialects. Some demanded a vote of nullification, others screamed for security. A few simply stood there, silent, stunned, broken. The human's voice cut through the noise like a wire through bone. This council was founded to prevent tyranny. And what would you know of tyranny? Kareth snarled, fists clenched. The man's stare didn't waver. Everything. He took a step forward. One of our colonies burned because no council fleet responded in time. We were told your forces were deployed elsewhere. That planet was outside your registered sovereignty. We filed 6 emergency signals. No one argued. We were told, the human continued, that Earth had no seat and thus no voice. He looked up. The stars in the hologram shifted. Again, this time displaying a list, all in council code. Each one, a world, burned, raided, ignored. Kareth's voice cracked. You're here for revenge? No. The lights dimmed slightly as the hologram collapsed into a single phrase. We are here to listen. A beat passed, then another, and then Isrix laughed. Is this some kind of trick? You arrive with implied threat, override our systems, and now you want to talk? The human turned to him, and this time, he did smile. Just once. You misunderstand. Listening isn't the same as obeying. That smile faded just as quickly. And if this council still believes power lies in permission rather than preparation, then you've already lost. He pressed a single button on the case. The red dots disappeared. Only one remained, hovering silently above the Sol system. Its tag blinked. Black Star. Awaiting orders. Then nothing. Stillness. Tension. Calculation. A beat of silence. Then, a whisper behind Kareth. Gods help us. They sent a scout. Counselor Isrix did not sleep. Not since the human arrived. His aides hovered behind him, silent and pale, as he skimmed the archives again. They shouldn't have access to Protocol 1, he muttered. That was sealed after the Iraq's collapse. The file is authentic, said a voice behind him. He turned. Counselor Velara of the Scythe Dominion stood there, arms crossed, face unreadable beneath the shimmer of her ceremonial veil. Or, at least, accepted as authentic, she added. He scoffed. Are you suggesting we kneel? I'm suggesting we think, she said sharply. We watched a single Terran walk into our core chamber, override our systems, and paralyze an assembly. That's held firm for 10,000 cycles. She stepped closer. Did you see the red dots? I saw projections, fear tactics, misdirection. Then you're blind. She held up a private scan. No encryption, no fake codes, just numbers, Terran fleet movements, confirmed jumps, real time, ghost signatures across 30 sectors, all post-dated, not threats, logs. They were already there, she whispered. Isrix's mouth twitched. Then we respond. Cut them off. Deploy Class 7s. Cripple their outer colonies. They have no outer colonies, Velara interrupted. That's what you still don't get. He stared. She tapped her datapad. Earth's star map bloomed again. Every dot led inward. They pulled back, consolidated, built everything around one system, like a bear curling around its cub. Isrix's eyes narrowed. Or a warhead coiling before it detonates. Down below, the Terran stood silently in the observation ring, watching stars. No broadcast, no message, just presence. Symbolic, inevitable. An alarm pinged on Yisrix's desk. A long, warbling pulse, unauthorized launch. Region Outer Savar Belt. Faction, Valaxi contingent. They launched? Valara blinked. Now? Their Valaxi. Subtlety was never their strong suit. Yisrix opened the feed. 6 warships. On intercept course with Sol. We'll frame it as an independent test, he said. That'll draw out the Terran fleet. We'll see what they're really hiding. Valara hesitated. And if Earth doesn't fire back? Yisrix smiled coldly. Then they're weaker than they pretend. And if they do? He didn't finish. Because that's when the transmission came through. Not from Earth. From the void. An unregistered channel. No encryption, no warning, just a single sentence in Galactic Standard. Target lock acquired on Valaxi fleet. Confirm retaliation? And below it, in ancient council script, symbols no Terran should have known. Per council. Order 01, defensive silence overrides bureaucratic delay. Valara stepped back, visibly shaken. That line. No one's used that clause in millennia. That was created for the First War. Yisrix's jaw clenched. How do they know these things? No answer. Only another ping. This time, not from Terran Command, but from Black Star itself. Retaliation confirmed. The screen dimmed, and then, from the far edge of the void, 6 stars blinked and vanished. No sound. No beam. No warning. Just absence. Valara stared at the empty quadrant, pale. Dear gods. They erased them. Yisrix didn't respond, because for the first time in 1,000 cycles he wasn't angry. He was afraid, and Earth hadn't spoken a word. The council chamber was no longer a place of order. Ambassadors shouted over one another in fractured dialects. Emergency lights bathed the walls in a quiet crimson, and every species capable of sweat was now doing so. At the center, the human still stood, unmoving, untouched, unimpressed. They fired first, Counselor Yisrix roared, banging a clawed fist on the platform. We all saw it. Earth retaliated illegally. Counselor Valara rose, her voice cold and sharp. Under Council Clause 001, Earth holds provisional authority when acting as an observer state under hostile approach. That clause is obsolete. No, she interrupted. It was forgotten. There's a difference. Somewhere near the back, the sand-furred Tiral ambassador muttered. We never should have ignored Sol. We thought them late. Turns out, they were patient. The murmurs began to turn not against Earth, but against the Council itself. One of the delegates from the Arathi leaned forward, crystalline limbs clicking in unease. You said they had no fleet. They don't, Yisrix snapped. Then what erased 6 warships? In silence? That question stopped the room. For a moment, even the alarms felt quieter. The human still hadn't spoken, not since the case, not since the dots. It was unbearable. Counselor Drell, an elder of the Aravan Spire, blind and ancient, rose, slowly. His voice was a whisper that seemed to echo across minds. Is it power, or is it restraint? The room turned to him. We built weapons to terrify each other. Earth built silence, a silence that listens first, and acts only once. He turned, unseeing, toward the human. What do you want from us? At last, movement. The human stepped forward, calm as a glacier breaking. He looked at Drell, not with disdain, not with pity, but with something far more dangerous. Clarity. I was sent. To observe, he said. Observe what? Yisrix spat. The human's eyes never left Drell. Patterns. He turned slowly, sweeping the room with a gaze heavy enough to still hearts. Who speaks the loudest? Who draws weapons first? Who forgets the laws they swore to enforce? And most of all, he stepped onto the platform. Who fears change more than extinction? The platform didn't stop him. It lowered automatically, granting him full view of every ambassador. The council itself had submitted to his elevation. No override, no code, just wait. The Valaxi test was not a miscalculation, the human said quietly. It was expected. The hologram from earlier flared back to life. But now the red dots were gone, replaced by a single line. Stage 1, complete, awaiting behavioral report. The council froze. You're testing us? Someone whispered. The human smiled, just slightly. We're deciding if this council is worth saving. Dead silence. One ambassador stood too quickly and collapsed. Another began crying in their own language, 7 simultaneous tones, none of them hopeful. Even Velara looked shaken. Then what happens next? She asked. The hologram flickered, a new map. This time, blue dots, Earth's allies, or worse, Earth's other observers. They're not alone. Isrix breathed. The human gave a single nod. No one ever is. A crack formed in the silence. Not sound but fear splitting through the council's spine. Blue dots, not Terran, not council, just unknown. Positioned across multiple quadrants, hidden in plain sight. No species code, no ID tags, no broadcast, just proximity. How long have they been there? Velara whispered. Longer than us, came the reply. It didn't come from the human, it came from the black case, a second voice, genderless, smooth, calm as winter glass. Designation, Osiris, it said. Earth's first consensus class AI, diplomatic spine, observation core, emotional dampener. The chamber shifted. Some ambassadors looked to the ceiling, others at the walls, as if the voice might be coming from all directions, because it was the case pulsed once. You were not speaking to a man, Osiris continued. You were speaking through him. The human turned slightly. Only now did they see the sheen behind his ear, the nanofilament threading his spine, his pulse. Too steady. An extension, a shell. He's not even real. Isrix breathed. Just a host. Incorrect, Osiris corrected. He is real, human, trained, chosen. A pause, but not necessary. The lights flickered, briefly. And in that flicker, a dozen council terminals opened without command, each screen lit with the face of a different species. Not Terran, not known. Each one spoke one line. In perfect galactic standard. We remember Earth. Then silence. Each screen shut off. Who are they? Drell asked, leaning on his staff as though time had suddenly become heavier. Osiris responded with something rare in synthetic voices. Emotion. They are the ones who heard Earth's silence and listened back. And what does that make us? Velara demanded. Those who spoke first. A simple phrase, but one that made the air feel thinner. Counselor Isrix slammed his console. This is intimidation, subterfuge, psychological warfare. You mistake clarity for threat, Osiris replied. You mistake yourself for a god. Isrix snapped. At that, for the first time, the human turned fully and looked Isrix in the eye. No, he said softly. But we've met one. The chamber dropped into a hush so total it felt like the stars themselves leaned in. Osiris spoke again. Stage 2 commences upon final vote. Observer presence will now cease direct input. The case dimmed. The map vanished. The human stepped back, eyes no longer active, posture slackening. He wasn't unconscious. He was absent, just gone behind the eyes. A puppet returned to stillness, and all that was left was choice. Kareth, voice cracked with age, finally spoke. Vote on what? Velara whispered the answer before Osiris could. If Earth should lead. A collective exhale echoed across the chamber. Not in agreement. In dread. Because for the first time since the Council's founding, someone else had written the agenda. The Council walls had never felt so tight. Counselor Isrix paced behind a privacy shield, whispering to his war advisors. Velara stood by the diplomatic wing, holding her head in one hand as a dozen species spoke at her all at once. The Turhal delegation simply sat still, tails wrapped around their bodies like knots of dread. "This is a trap," Isrix hissed. "They want us to vote. They want division." Counselor Drell, old and unmoving, sat with his gnarled staff across his lap. "Perhaps, but traps only spring when you move too fast." "There's nothing fast about this," Velara said. "Earth has been waiting for decades." She glanced at the center platform, the Terran envoy still unmoving. Silent, his eyes stared ahead without seeing, the glow in his pupils gone. A man-shaped question mark. "He's not even here anymore," Isrix spat, "and yet he's louder than all of us." The vote protocol buzzed once, not a countdown, just a nudge, a reminder. Cast your decision, publicly. And so the council began to fracture in real time. The Arathi signaled abstention. The Sith Dominion whispered for limited support, observation only. The Valaxi, what was left of them, screamed for retaliation. And then, the hologram flared again. Not red, not blue, just white. A blank vote, the symbol of refusal. Someone had cast it. "Who voted?" Ysrix barked, but the system didn't say. It didn't have to, because one by one, more blank votes followed. Not for, not against, just none. Indecision disguised as neutrality. But every ambassador knew what it really meant. They were afraid to choose. They were afraid to speak, because silence now felt like survival. Counselor Velara stepped into the center platform. She faced the room. Her voice shook, but she did not whisper. "If Earth wanted war, we'd be ash already." A pause. "If Earth wanted power, we'd be in chains." Another pause. "So maybe what they really wanted was to see what we'd do when offered neither threat nor command. Just a question." She turned to the human. "You asked what we fear more than extinction." Her voice softened. "I think the answer is irrelevance." The case pulsed once, the smallest flicker, just enough to prove it still listened. Counselor Drell stood, supported by his aides. "Let history record this," he said. "The day the galaxy refused to vote, because Earth didn't need our permission." He raised one trembling hand and lowered it. Final protocol triggered. No vote cast. No verdict rendered. Diplomatic status, observer sustained. Influence, undefined. And just like that, the chamber lights dimmed, not in shame, but in resignation, because the most powerful statement Earth had made was letting them choose. Beneath 20 miles of oceanic crust, in a room built to survive starfire, Admiral Solinkas read the incoming data without flinching. Around her, holograms flickered with tactical reports, fleet synchronization checks, and silent signal replies from Terran observers positioned across the Orion arm. She wore no medals, no name badge, just a gray uniform and a face built for war. "Confirmation just in," her adjutant whispered. Council failed to vote. Most abstained. She said nothing, only tilted her head slightly, like a hawk adjusting to wind. "No," alliances declared. "No sanctions, just uncertainty." Still silence. Then she exhaled. "Then it's worse than we projected." "Ma'am, they're not brave enough to fight us," she said, voice dry, "but too proud to follow us. That makes them unpredictable." Across the circular command platform, the Osiris relay pulsed once. Observer returned to passive state. Psychological profile logged. Fear threshold exceeded in 73% of primary delegates. Admiral Ka stepped forward, standing in the central circle where Earth's updated star map spun. No longer a red web of defense or threat, but a mirror of possibilities. "Bring up the Council's internal chatter logs. I want every phrase that involved the words irrelevance, and collapse, or succession." The system complied. Lines scrolled past. Counselor Drell, Velara, Isrix, even fringe races that hadn't spoken in cycles were whispering now. "We begin diplomatic overtures?" her comms officer asked. Ka shook her head slowly. No, ma'am. You don't offer a hand to someone who's still deciding whether they're falling or flying. A silence settled over the room. Heavy. Strategic. Then she tapped into her private terminal. A hidden frequency flared, subspace encrypted, soul-keyed to her DNA. Another face appeared. Not human, an old one. Pale eyes, silvery skin, and a symbol. Behind his head, the last elder of the Arcanex fold. Status? He asked in a voice made of broken music. They blinked, she said simply. The alien closed his eyes. As expected. Kas leaned forward. They will try to delay us now. Stagnate. Reassert through misdirection, assassinations, smear campaigns. They will not challenge us head-on. He nodded. And your recommendation? Kas's voice dropped to something glacial. We begin Phase 3. A flicker of tension on the alien's face. They'll never accept a Terran empire. Then, don't call it that, she tapped the console. A new map shimmered, this one with corridors, anchor worlds, interlinked systems of trade, security, and observation. Not war, infrastructure. Build the roads, Kas whispered. Let them walk them freely. Then one day they'll look down and realize Earth laid the stone. The alien said nothing, because it was already happening. Soft power, quiet networks, silent alliances. Not domination, absorption. And if anyone resists, he asked finally. Kas's voice turned soft, like a knife against silk. Then we remind them what silence feels like, right before a system disappears. Her gaze flicked to the dormant human envoy on screen, still sitting in the chamber, unmoved. No banners, she murmured. No oaths, no war cries. Just gravity. The chamber no longer echoed with commands. It echoed with doubt. Counselor Isrix had retreated to his private observatory, coiled beneath a starlit dome, drinking from a neural stabilizer and mumbling curses in his native tongue. His claws twitched, half in fury, half in fear. They're dismantling us, Guy, without touching a single ship. Across the hall, whispers floated like smoke. You saw the maps. Earth has infrastructure ready. Built in secret. No, we just never looked. Valera stood at the side of the chamber unmoving, eyes fixed on the human still seated at the center. He hadn't spoken since Osiris deactivated, but his presence did. He doesn't breathe like prey, she said softly to Drell. The elder turned his head. He breathes like a predator that's already eaten. More whispers. The Orathi sent an encrypted signal to their homeworld, recommending withdrawal from Council defense programs. The Terhal quietly requested Terran encryption tech for research purposes. And in the far shadows of the Council, 3 minor species, long ignored, barely consulted, met for the first time in private. They offered us a seat. They never even asked for tribute. They listened. We've never mattered to the Council. But Earth sent observers to us. It began as a whisper. It would end as a fracture. A rupture not with ships or fire, but with realization. Counselor, Kareth returned to the floor after hours of isolation. His voice was hoarse, eyes sunken. We must respond. We must declare something. Isrix slammed his tail. Declare what? That we're cowards? That we let a ghost of a human outmaneuver our entire assembly? Velara raised a hand. No, we declare truth. The room turned. She stepped forward. No armor, no script, just weight. We declare that for centuries the Council was power, and in power we grew blind. We crushed the small, silenced the slow, and ignored the strange. She turned to the human again, and Earth watched. A long pause. Then Drell spoke. Perhaps the question is not whether we should stop Earth. He looked at the delegates. But whether we deserve to continue. The silence that followed was not shocked. It was honest, because for the first time in cycles no one argued. Because the power Earth held wasn't in fleets or weapons. It was in the mirror. And everyone who looked didn't like what they saw. At the edge of the chamber, a ripple of movement. The human stood. No sound. No activation of Osiris. He moved on his own, and then, with perfect precision, he walked out. No guards, no escort, no words. But before he stepped through the threshold, he paused, turned, and with eyes that were now unmistakably human, he spoke. "We'll be watching, not waiting." And then he vanished. Not as a threat, as a test. They failed. The Arathi were not known for boldness. Thin-bodied, crystalline-veined, with speech that resonated like wind through glass, they had always survived by standing just outside the blast radius of larger empires. But now, standing outside the council no longer guaranteed safety. It guaranteed irrelevance. Ambassador Chelek of the Arathi leaned forward in his private quarters, alone, wings folded. His mandibles clicked nervously as he initiated the frequency Earth had left them. No encryption bypass, no security challenge, just a simple message. If you're reaching out, you already understand. The connection opened. A human face appeared. Not military, not political. She wore no rank, just a plain blue scarf and a calmness that didn't blink. "Ambassador Chelek," she said with a soft smile. "We were expecting you." He blinked his inner eyes. "I haven't spoken yet." "You didn't need to," she replied. "The council's silence says enough." Chelek hesitated. "We are not warriors. You won't need to be. We don't wish to be consumed." She leaned forward. "You think we're building an empire? We're not. Then, what are you building?" Her smile faded, not unkindly, just with gravity. "We're building a choice." She pulled up a map, different from the council's, not divided by species or treaties, but by efficiency, trade corridors, human-built stabilizers, terraforming rings, medical nodes, AI-guided agriculture, all offered, no signature required. "This is not conquest," Chelek whispered. "It's infrastructure," she said. "It's what the council never gave you unless you bowed first." Chelek clicked his mandibles. "And the cost?" "Transparency." A pause. No tribute, no forced allegiance, just shared reporting, shared crisis response, shared responsibility. The words hung there, foreign, terrifying, tempting, and, "If the council learns we've joined you?" She didn't blink. "They won't admit it." Chelek tilted his head. "Why?" "Because to admit you left is to admit they were never leading." That stung, because it was true. "Why us?" he asked finally. "Why begin here?" Her voice dropped, not in threat but in precision. "Because you're not dangerous, and you're not proud enough to lie to yourself." Chelek nodded slowly. "And if we say yes? Then you'll receive full network access, tech updates, emergency fallback rights, and protection protocols. And if we say no?" She smiled, once more. "Then we'll still help you. Just slower." The call ended with no pressure, no timer, just an open door. And Chelek sat in that silence for a long time. He pressed one crystal claw to the console. Confirmed. Across the Arathi homeworld, beacons lit, quiet pulsing signals, not military, not aggressive, just active. Observers Terran built and sealed in place decades ago came online, and the galaxy shifted, not with fire, but with favors. The Dravani War Council was not known for hesitation. They had ruled through conquest, for 3,000 cycles, burning planets, assimilating species, conquering moons just to erase rival languages. But Earth unnerved them. "This is a virus," growled General Thrask, pounding his clawed fist into the table of bones. "They're not offering peace, they're offering submission disguised as generosity." "They've taken no systems by force," countered strategist Velra. "They haven't even deployed a full fleet," Thrask snarled. "They don't need to. That's the trick. They give you trade, security, and while you're using their roads and medicine, they're inside your pulse." He pointed to the map. The Arathi blinked red. A confirmed shift. First them. Who next? The Turhal? The fractured Kelsh? Half the minor species haven't had council aid in a generation. Earth offers them relevance. "And we offer what?" Velra asked coldly. Threats? Yes. A beat. Then silence. Because there was no longer a consensus. Only fear. We strike Sol, Thrask said. Hard. Before this illusion of peace calcifies into loyalty. Velra's eyes narrowed. You'd start a war over a road? No, Thrask replied, teeth bared. I'd start a war over a whisper. He activated the beacon. Deploy the Abyss Clause. 3 dreadnoughts. No comms. No warning. We burn. 1 Terran relay and disappear before they can respond. Shadow strike? Velra asked. No, Thrask said. Message. Far away. Within Earth's command vault beneath the Pacific, an alert chimed. Admiral Krylos looked up from her console. Dravani. Fleet just phase jumped, her adjutant said. Heading for Karen 7 minor refueling post, no defense grid, 0 armament. Send nothing, Krylos said calmly. The officer blinked. Ma'am. They think we'll defend it. Let them. Seconds passed. Then, a red flash. No feed. No explosion. Just 1 word from Osiris. Contact failed. Dravani signal loss confirmed. Krylos exhaled once. Bring it up. The hologram lit. Karen 7, still intact. Dravani fleet? Gone. No wreckage. No energy trace. Only 1 new variable. An object now orbiting the small moon. Smooth. Black. Silent. The USS Alethea, Earth's first Phase 4 vessel. Unarmed, uncrewed. Run entirely by a sentient AI known only as Mir.Velra's. Voice reached Krylos within minutes, trembling behind layers of encrypted dread. That was not a warship. Krylos didn't deny it. It was an idea, she said. Projected at full force. Velra whispered. You erased 3 dreadnoughts without a weapon. No, Krylos replied. They erased themselves by entering Mir's radius. What is Mir? Krylos looked past the screen. Proof. Velra said nothing, because she now understood. Earth didn't need allies to win. It just needed the galaxy to watch. The broadcast came without timestamp, no preamble, no encrypted keys. It simply appeared. On every device, on every species, network, in every language at once. Galactic Standard, and then local dialects, then ancient tongues not spoken in over 1,000 cycles. It began with a single visual. Earth. Not a warship, not a fleet, just the planet, seen from its moon. Serene. Blue. Alive. Then, a human voice. Calm. Male. No accent. You mistook our silence for absence. It wasn't. The shot slowly zoomed in. Not fast. Not cinematic. Intimate. You assumed. Our patience meant weakness. It didn't. Stars reflected off Earth's oceans as clouds turned slowly. You believed our lack of ambition made us small. Then, cut. A sudden shift. A series of still images. Quiet. Haunting. A village rebuilt. After bombardment. An alien child using a Terran-made prosthetic. A Tirhal elder clasping hands with a human engineer near a half-built planetary stabilizer. Then a final image. The Arathi ambassador, Kelek, standing inside a Terran relay dome, placing a hand over a holographic star map labeled Unity Sector. We do not seek power. Another beat. We seek permanence. Back in the council, ambassadors sat frozen. Some stood. Some bowed their heads. No one interrupted. We don't need your votes, or your oaths. What we're building doesn't require conquest. The image shifted again. Ships. Not bristling with weapons, but layered in armor and scaffolding. Repair class. Terraformers. Diplomatic hubs, and far, far in the background, just visible behind a plasma bloom. Mir drifted. Silent and distant. We will not threaten you. A pause. Then, softly. Because we won't have to. The screen faded to black. Then, one final line appeared. The roads are open. No signature. No anthem. Just silence. A galaxy full of it. And across 1,000 systems, different reactions. Bloomed on Valaxi Prime. Riots broke out in the skyward districts. protests demanding that their leaders open communications with Earth before it's too late. On Terral's moon colonies, elders began independent negotiations. Even the Aravan Spire, a race untouched for 2 millennia, reopened their outer gates. The galaxy didn't bend. It pivoted. Back in the council, Counselor Velara stood in the darkened chamber, her voice barely above a whisper. They're not just changing the system, they're replacing it. Counselor Drell nodded slowly, eyes closed. We forgot that power doesn't always arrive in armor. Sometimes, it walks in wearing patience. Isrik said nothing. He simply stared at the screen, still frozen, still showing Earth. Because in the end, Earth never demanded leadership. It simply walked forward, until no one else was brave enough to follow. The stars did not flare. They simply watched. And beneath their quiet gaze, the galaxy moved. Not with banners or fleets, but with footsteps. Quiet ones. On the fractured planet of Juralis III, a world known for its brutal neutrality, the High Council gathered to discuss trade security. They never finished the meeting, because their youngest representative, barely of age, stood in the middle of the chamber and said just 6 words. I've already joined the Terran network. Gasps outrage, but she didn't flinch. They sent no army, just opportunity. She held up a slate, a gift from a Terran diplomat. On it, a live map of 5 new hospitals, 3 clean water installations, and a planned orbital ring set to begin construction for free. They didn't ask for tribute, she whispered. Just truth. Across the galaxy, similar scenes played out. A Kelsh merchant caravan rerouted its shipping lanes to pass through Terran corridors. A minor mining world in the Outer Rift stopped flying its council flag and raised none in its place. And on Orathi Prime, Chelek stood before his people and said, "We were never invited, we were welcomed." Back in Earth's command vault, Admiral Krylos stared at a growing map. No alarms, no red zones, just new blue lights, appearing not through conquest, but through consent. Her comms officer blinked. Ma'am, the Arcanex Fold just offered Earth access to their forgotten gates. Krylos looked up. They've been sealed for 1/500 years. Not anymore. She nodded once, then whispered, Then the age of keys is over. In the Galactic Council, Velara walked alone down the echoing halls. Not many came anymore. Drell was gone. Isrix had returned to his world, no longer a counselor, just a fading name. No votes had been called in days. No one asked when the next session was. And yet, the galaxy worked. Trade flowed faster. Crisis response was immediate. Even piracy had dropped, with Terran patrol drones offering non-lethal interdiction backed by real food, not fines. Velara entered the chamber one last time. At the center stood a child, half human, half Terhal, born from a diplomatic union raised between stars. He looked at her and asked, "Will you sit with me?" She did. No debate, no speech, just presence. And as they stared at the central podium, now unused, dust forming beneath the glyphs of ancient law, they didn't mourn. They watched something else take root. Not a council, a conquered, not built by force, but by the gravity of example. Somewhere, drifting in the shadow of Saturn, Mir pulsed once. Its internal thought logged a phrase not meant for databanks. This is not victory, a pause. This is continuity. And far beyond even that, Earth turned slowly, silent, patient, but no longer waiting, just leading, without asking.